All right, welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge NewsCon. Now I'm going to welcome Ras Ben. He is a scribe, astrologer, presenter, and self-published author of 4 books: Rocks of Ages, Great Mystery Philadelphia, An Urban Act of Magic, Free Your Mound and Your Mind Will Follow, and 5G Wellness 101. Ben, welcome. How are you doing?
Thankful. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great, great. I'm looking forward to your presentation very much. From what you described, it's going to be very fascinating. You're going to be talking about the Galactic Federation and some of the new kind of disclosure movement that's been going on, right?
Yes, more or less. Yes.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to this. Without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to you. I'm gonna turn my camera off, and everyone, without further ado, Ross Ben.
All right. Greetings, everyone. How y'all doing today? Uh, yeah, about the time Chris contacted me about this conference, which was towards the end of 2020, was a lot going on in the news. Uh, the most dramatic of which there was a Israeli security officer who came out, I think it was in December of 2020, saying that, yeah, yes, indeed, there was a Galactic Federation and that the Israeli and United States government were in contact with this Galactic Federation and that they actually did want to reveal this information earlier, but the Galactic Federation felt humanity wasn't ready. And there was a lot of different spins put on it. I think it was a very significant event because it was the first time that this type of information was revealed in mainstream media. And, there was so many other events closing out 2020. Yeah, I felt it was a very significant event, especially when you put it in the context of other big news events that was happening towards the end of 2020. One being the prominence that asteroids were getting in the news. And those that have been paying attention to disclosure, particularly the works of Dr. Carol Rosin, who uh, revealed what she had learned, and revealed with Dr. Stephen Greer in the Disclosure Project, where she said there's this script that is going to kind of lead up to this false flag alien invasion, and that there was going to be a series of enemies, the first of which would be the Soviet Union. The next would be terrorists. The one after that would be rogue nations. Then it would be asteroids. And after asteroids, the, as she put it, the final card or the last card was going to be this false flag alien invasion, you know? So if we've been paying attention to current events, we know the Soviet Union Cold War has come and gone. We know that terrorist scenario has kind of come. It's, they might still play that card every now and then, but the terrorist scenario has come and gone. The rogue nation scenario with like North Korea, Iraq, it's still kind of playing out, but the asteroid card is definitely being played now from about the end of 2020. As a matter of fact, if we recall, there was news about an asteroid that was scheduled to hit the day before the U.S. elections. That was a big news event. Uh, Circulating around right before the US elections in November. And asteroids has not left the news from that point. So this is where we are, which means if we look at Dr. Rosin's script, we're very close to, I guess, what she described as a false flag alien invasion unfolding. We also got to kind of take that in the context of the Space Force being created, uh, which kind of grew out of NORAD. 3 of the 5 Space Force bases are situated in Colorado. And we know NORAD was kind of grew out of the Cold War, initially designed to, defend the United States in a nuclear attack from the Soviet Union and ensure continuity of governance. So out of that strategic structure has now grown the Space Force. And yeah, we got to pay attention to these things, And so these, I thought it would be relevant to speak about the quote unquote Galactic Federation from a different perspective. Uh, One that would say, I don't think they're working with the United States and Israeli government. And I actually think they have been attempting to circumvent those guys and communicate directly to humanity for a long time. And they've been using a universal language, one of sacred geometry and divine mathematics, which is the most universal language that you can get. And yeah, that communication has been in the form of crop circles. And we know crop circles is an old phenomenon. It's been going on for decades, Uh, and it's been their way of attempting to communicate to humanity, direct, circumventing those who, they say they are representatives, but are they really representing our best interest? And, do they really speak for us as a collective? Meaning, do the intentions that they have align with the betterment for the all? And do the intentions that they have, would they even put us in a position that would allow us to become members of the Galactic Federation? We're eligible by birthright, but we do have to earn that status through our behavior, you know? So I think we should look at crop circles in this context. And I think we should start with what has been labeled by those who study crop circles the 3 most important crop circles. Look at them in the context of some celestial events that unfolded in 2020. And, I think that gives us a lot more insight into why these uh, proclamations of a galactic federation came out to close out the year. Okay. So I want us to start looking at this with what we would call the 3 most important crop circles ever. And the reason why they got these labels is interesting because, as I said, crop circles more often than not are expressed in the language of divine mathematics and sacred geometry. Well, sometimes they will use very human-centered symbology that is just only relevant to the human experience, like they're talking our language, symbolically. And that gives these crop circles a certain special relevance, a very special and specific message that gives them a certain importance. So I want us to look at a couple of them, then a couple of examples of crop circles that kind of speak to a celestial event that occurred in 2020 that has specific relevance, for this whole topic. Okay. So, and before I start, I do want to say that I am not a expert in crop circles. I don't want to put any title on myself. All I do is I pay attention to crop circles and I do my best to interpret and decode them. And if anything, I'm just inspiring and encouraging others to do the same. Because, as I said, what are crop circles? They are the quote unquote Galactic Federation's attempt to circumvent uh, NASA and all those boys, all the alphabet boys, and communicate directly to humanity what's going on. So, first, what they would call is the most important crop circle. It's known as the Chibolton crop circle. It was created August 14th, 2000 in Chibolton, England. And as I said, its importance is because it was symbolically a direct response to a very human phenomena. And that was the uh, cosmic message sent out by the cosmologist Dr. Carl Sagan by the Arecibo telescope in Puerto Rico, where Dr. Sagan uh, sent out a digital signal from the Arecibo telescope that basically, if you transcribed it, would make a pictogram that decoded who humanity is and where we are within the cosmos. And Dr. Sagan started sending this message in 1974. And this is what the pictogram would look like. And, we'll kind of decode it real quick. It says, hey, we have a decimal based numeric system. There's 5 atomic elements that are key to life on our planet: hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus. It gives the formula for our DNA nucleotides. It shows that our DNA is in a double helix. It shows the basic height and proportions of a human body, that we average about 5'9", small heads in proportion to our body's frame. Gave the population of Earth in the 1970s. It showed that planet Earth was the 3rd planet in our solar system. And then it showed that this signal was being sent by the Arecibo telescope. So this was the message Dr. Carl Sagan broadcast out. In Chibolton, England in 2000, there was a crop circle response. Very, very important, okay? And if we decode it, it said, hey, we're using a decimal system. We have 5 key elements of life: phosphorus, nitrogen, hydrogen, but where y'all have carbon, we have silica, right? We have 3 strands of DNA instead of 2, right? The DNA nucleotide formula was slightly different. They depicted themselves as being 3 to 4 feet in height, with larger heads in proportion to their body than ours. They had 9 planets in their planetary system, in which the third, fourth, and fifth planet was inhabited, right? And there was about 21.3 billion of them, and that the message was being broadcast by an orb. Next to that data strip that, broke all that information down, there was a pixelated image imposed in the field, right? And why we by pixelated meaning these, like it was really just a bunch of tufts of crop formed. And it wasn't until the sun shined on the tufts in a certain way that you could see, oh, these were set up to be pixels that created an image. And it was an image of a face. And so this was their way of saying, hey, this is a selfie of ourselves. This is a image, a picture. Like when we take a picture of ourselves, a selfie, it's, composed of pixels, right? That's what makes up a digital image. So the way that they used to form this image was in and of itself saying like, hey, this is a picture of us. This is who we are. And it's a humanoid face. Okay. So they're showing that they are like who we would say are the Galactic Federation. They're these humanoid beings that, right, they do have larger heads and smaller bodies in proportion to us. They're silica-based humanoids, instead of carbon-based humanoids. But yeah, they're humanoids nonetheless. Okay. So we would definitely say this is the most important crop circle ever, because it clearly identifies who this Galactic Federation is. It was revealed over 20 years ago. Okay. And right, the pace of the news cycle, what stays in our consciousness and awareness for 2 decades? Not too much, but hey, this was a very important message. So about a year to the day, near the same fields, another crop circle appeared. And many consider this the second most important crop circle ever. And I would kind of affirm that. Again, the symbology, the way the crop circle was formed, it really spoke to our reality and a human experience in such a way that, you know, we really should pay attention. They weren't using their normal universal language in the expression of this crop circle. Okay. And so what it was it's a screen with lines of resolution. Now remember, in the first uh, most important crop circle ever in Chibolton, right? They used a pixelated image to depict themselves. So here we see this other type of, I guess we'll just call it for right now, an alien being. And it's depicted with lines of resolution, right? Like a televised broadcast image. Okay. And it looks reptoid or insectoid, right? And there's a CD. I know that, I mean, the turnover of technology is so quick, but I hope people remember CDs, which are disc where, a binary code is imprinted on the disc, and as the disc spins, it's, the data code is read and, you know, gives information to the computer. Those who kind of looked at the data code on the disc realized, oh, this is the ASCII key, or the binary code for the alphabet on keyboards. And so they spelled it out in English, and this is what it said: beware the deceivers with their false gifts and broken promises. There's much pain, but there's still time. Believe that there is good out there. We oppose deception, and the conduit is closing. Okay? So, like for me, I like to try to fill in the blanks for people to because it's not in English with clear syntax, noun, verb agreement clearly articulated and all of that. So how I would say it: beware the reptilian deceivers with their false gifts, which is technology, and their broken promises. Humanity is in much pain, but there is still time to heal. Believe there is good out there in outer space. We oppose deception, and the deceiver's conduit is closing. So this was the message expressed in ASCII code, the computer, keyboard, digital code for the English alphabet. Very human-centered symbology, okay? So, you know, without getting too deep, these two most important crop circles, they're really telling us who's who in this galactic community, that there's two polar forces, one who we would call the Nephilim or the fallen angels, the reptilians, the Dracos. They're known by many names, many people. I don't really want to spend a lot of time getting into that. I think the audience is well aware of these cats that are known by many names and many people, and everyone got a name for them. Okay. What I think is important to identify is one, that these reptilians or these fallen angels, that they spawned another alien beings, and they're known as the Greys, right? I think that's important to know. The other is that these reptilian beings are not extraterrestrial beings, they're interterrestrial beings. And I think it's important that we know kind of who's who in this galactic community, as it's articulated by these two most important crop circles. One, we have who we would call the Galactic Federation, who are these humanoid, silica life form beings. The other are these reptoid beings. The humanoids are extraterrestrial, they're intergalactic, they're cosmic, they're the ETs. These reptilian ones, in our current space time, they're interterrestrial. At one time, they may have been extraterrestrial at one point in space time. Our current point in space time, they're interterrestrial beings. Phenotypically, the ETs are humanoid. Phenotypically, the interterrestrials are reptilian. I would say their intention as it relates to humanity, the ETs have a benevolent intention towards us. And I would say, generally speaking, the reptilians have a malevolent intention towards humanity. We know everything is relative. Perspective is everything. I would just say that's my perspective. Point of origin: humanoid, Their ultimate point of origin is the seventh heaven. And they've come to our vector, our sector of the galaxy through the Sirius star system. These inner earth beings, some say they're Palladian in origin, some say they're like Draco or Rigelian in origin. I think they might have celestial connections at different points in space-time to both of them. But as it is now, they, being the losers of this cosmic battle, they've been bound within the earth as like as a quarantine space, good way to put it. The mode of human interaction, the celestial humanoids, the biggest thing is they honor our free will. They honor omniversal law and they honor our free will. So really, they are hoping we could put ourselves in the place and condition in space-time to receive their help. And that's going to come through a lot of spiritual growth and evolution on our part, taking full responsibility for our condition. They can't do nothing for us that we don't take full responsibility for, being in the position to receive it, to be honest. And that comes with first understanding completely and fully what it is that's going on. And that's our big lessons we got to learn in this time. The reptilian inner terrestrial beings, they like to manipulate us through urban geomancy, media technology. That's why they're depicted with lines of resolution of the television. They also manipulate space-time, tricks of time, like Prometheus, knowing what the future is. And so giving humanity the technology to manipulate timelines, They're fifth dimensional. They can travel through intergalactic space-time. The inner earth beings, fourth dimensional. They can really only eat humanoids. They don't really want to offer humanity any more technology. If you check their message, they said, beware the deceivers and their false gifts and broken promises. They feel humanity already has too much technology, and they want us to really get more back into earth, nature, botanical sciences, disarm, grow spiritually. The inner earth reptilians, they give humanity technology. They promote it. This is, part of their way of escaping, their plan of escaping their cosmic judgment and escaping out of the inner earth, and becoming galactic beings again. Again, I can't get all into that, but I'm sure y'all could put those pieces together. The way they communicate with humanity, the cosmic humanoids, communion, synchronicity, crop circles, and sightings. The inner earth reptilians, subliminal emanations, urban geomancy, televised broadcasts. Reproduction, celestial ETs, they're eternal light beings. They don't need to reproduce. These inner earth beings, they've lost their immortal state. They can't reproduce naturally. They reproduce through cloning and stealing genetic materials from other life forms. That's the whole abduction phenomena and the whole incubus succubus phenomena. Nourishment, celestial humanoids, light, sound, plants, grains, just like humanity, and we're in our proper state. Inner earth beings, they feed off of the toxic emanations of humanity, unproductive emotions, anger, rage, low vibration sexual frequencies, as well as bottled human extracts and animal extracts. These celestial humanoids, they're known by many names, many people. In ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, they were known as the Anui, the celestial fish man that swam with Ra's Ark of a Million Years. The Dogon knew him as the Nomo Titiani, Amma's messenger assistants, who were the regulators of the heavens. The Maya called them Ahau Kinds, the lords of the sun. And the indigenous, like the Lakota, them call them the Star Nation people. So they're known by many names, many people, you know. Here in the West, in Ethiopia, they're known as the Ophan and the Book of Enoch. They're described as the Aphanim or the Ophan. They're described as the third rank of angels after the cherubim and the seraphim. The cherubim and the seraphim are described as dwellers of the seventh heaven, and they don't leave the seventh heaven. But the Ophan are the angelic hierarchy that can traverse all seven heavens. And again, here in the West, they call them the Galactic Federation, But like I say, they're known by many people, by many names, okay? Now let's transition our discussion to what we would call the third most important crop circle ever. And it got this name in 2012. It appeared in 2011. And it got its name for a couple of reasons. One was its size. At that time, it was one of the largest crop circles ever documented. I want to say it was about 3 football fields in size. It was ginormous, And secondly, because of what it seemed to foretell, which was that Quetzalcoatl, or the plumed serpent, because we see it was a, serpentine design crop circle, was going to have some impact or do something on planet Earth during the Venus transit the sun that was going to occur June 5th, 2012. And so, in 2012, there was a celestial event where Venus occulted or transited the face of the sun. And y'all just saw the recording of it, right? And when we study this crop circle, it really seemed to say like there was something related to Quetzalcoatl during that celestial event, okay? And the thing with Venus transits, they occur in every 128 years, but when they occur in pairs that are separated by 8 years. So there was a Venus transit the sun in 2004. We just saw that one occurred again in 2012, right? Now there was a large, what they would call, Star Nation sighting around that time in 2012. But I really think that it spoke to a celestial event that occurred in 2020 that, that 2020 hindsight, seeing things with 2020 vision and 2020 clarity, being in the other side of 2020, it's like, man, this crop circle takes on a whole other meaning, right? So what I think it was saying is that, okay, the head of the serpent represented the first Venus transit that occurred in 2004, right? The Venus transiting the sun that, is kind of central to this crop circle. It is what occurred June 5th, 2012. If we see the head and the tail are kind of equidistant. So if we look at the tail of the serpent, something large would appear to, they're saying something large is going to occult the sun in 2020. And sure enough, that is what happened. July 2nd, 2020, this was captured over, this was sunset in Cairo, Egypt, July 2nd, 2020. And I'm sure many in the audience will recall in July of 2020, there was a period where the hashtag for the sun was blocked on certain social media sites because everybody was posting all of these deep images of these celestial objects that really can't be accounted for in, I'm gonna run that again, just, so people can check this thing again. Celestial objects that really can't be accounted for in our solar system were being observed and recorded near the sun, and people were recording it and posting it on social media. Okay, so more needs to be talked about this. We need to, again, we're in this media cycle where what stays in our attention and our awareness past a couple of weeks, but yeah, we can't let this thing just come and go. We got to be more aware of this, bring it to people's awareness, So again, let's look at this crop circle. If the head represented the Venus occulting the sun in 2004, the body that has the Venus transiting the sun in June of 2012, right? In 8 more years, there's some other, this is saying, foretelling that there's going to be some large celestial object again culting the sun. Now, this makes this the third most important crop circle for a couple of reasons. One, there is debate and doubt in the collective mind of humanity about the origin of crop circles. Some say it's a hoax put on by other humans, that they running out here with boards and GPS telephones and using this technology to create these crop circles. And I will not argue that there are some people doing that. Who can't argue that there's some people doing that? But now, this crop circle right here, if decoded with 2020 vision, is showing a celestial object and a celestial event no human could predict, man. No human could predict this, okay? This is beyond the dimensional comprehension of a human, because even those that were studying the Nibiru, there's no way they're going to know when this thing was going to happen and related to the Venus transits the sun. Like, nah, it wasn't going to happen like that, you know? So you can't fake this. This is one reason it's the most important crop circle ever. The third most, that I don't mean to say the most, but the third most, because it shows like, yo, this came from people that know the celestial reality on a scale that we don't, period. You show me the human that could have done this, you know, and I'll sit down and be quiet. But it's also important because it really tells us what time that we're in, and that there is, and that Quetzalcoatl, the Star Nation return, the plumed serpent of the cosmos, and all the prophecies associated with them. This is the time we're in, you know? This is the time we're in. And to just kind of reaffirm that, and I'm going to open it up for discussion, okay, and question and comment, is, this perspective of the star nations foretelling of this, what I would call a great conjunction, the conjunction of our twin suns, the dark star companion of our sun. Some call it Nibiru, some call it Nemesis, some call it the blue star, red star, Kachina. The Dogon call it Po Pilu. It's got a lot of different names, different traditions. Again, I'm not going to get all into it. I think people are aware of it and they got their own angle on it, but you know what I'm talking about. So the Star Nations have been affirming the reality of it and how it was a prominent message in what we would call the third most important crop circle. It's been a consistent and reoccurring message and theme in crop circles from 2012 on. And I'm going to just show examples from 2017 to 2019, okay? Because there's so many. If we went through all the years, I'd run over time and Chris would be like, push the button, Ross, time out, you know, pay attention, bro, what you doing? So, I'm not going to stress my man. I'm going to honor his time. So we're just going to look at examples from 2017 to 2019. Here's one where, if you kind of just decode it, quick glance, when the when this twin star companion occults the sun, right? You see it. Something's going to open up that heart of love, right? You see the heart there. Here, it seems like a crop circle. Again, all of these is 2017 to 2019, most of them England. I'm not going to give the details of their locations. Study it. I'm hopefully inspiring y'all to check this phenomenon out, okay? But here's like one, it seems like when the conjunction occurs, some signal that unlocks the labyrinth, that opens up the portals, turns the tumble keys, opens up. Here's one again, just seeming like referring to the conjunction, unlocking something. The conjunction culminating a wave or setting forth wave motion. The conjunction, dealing with the four corner foundation or four element. Again, we see this as a theme. This great conjunction, it's a theme we see consistent. Here it is opening up some tachyon energy portal, right? Again, opening up some pyramidal energy activation, some Anansi spider, celestial communication. I think this should be considered, in my humble opinion, maybe the fourth most important crop circle. Because again, if we say the importance of crop circles are given by the fact that they're not using universal symbology of sacred geometry and divine mathematics, that what gives a crop circle significance, that they're using human-centered symbology, right? They're showing like, yo, this great conjunction that's represented by the doorknob, it's a door, it's a portal. I think that's important, And then you also see this theme where it seems like the conjunction is going to have something to do with DNA activation, DNA spiral double helix type interacting interface, okay? And so this great conjunction, I think, again with 20, and if we revisit crop circles with 2020 vision, 2020, they say hindsight is 2020, right? 2020 as a year, the hindsight with it, you know, uh, again, if we pay attention to the celestial events that occurred in 2020 and look at crop circles, I think we could see, give meaning and significance to this great conjunction, and use it as a way of decoding these crop circles that we couldn't in a way prior. And I really think that something is going on in the cosmos, in the heavens, that it supersedes all that we see happening in our 4D reality. And all of those crop circles that we just looked at, again, that was just 2017 to 2019 that they spoke to this celestial event. Now, my feeling is this summer, I don't think it was just a once annual thing. I think from now through the next 7 years, when the Northern Hemisphere has a certain orientation to the Sirius star system, we're going to be able to see these celestial events. So I'm putting the word out like, hey, pay attention to the heavens. I think if we, have a renewed awareness of the crop circles and pay attention to the messages that come with it, that we, can get the awareness we need to have the critical, what we would call the critical mass of consciousness, enough people on the planet ready to be galactic humans, galactic citizens, to know what it is, to know what time it is, moving like George Clinton, moving like Sun Ra, moving like Yahweh, Prince Yahweh, a Prophet Yahweh. To just know who the Aphanim are. We got the galactic awareness, and it's enough of us. We got the critical mass that we could join that galactic community. And the time for it has to be near, because why else would news of a Galactic Federation make mainstream media? Why would a Space Force be created? We see the final card of the false flag alien invasion being played right before our eyes. This is where we at, and this is what time it is, So we got to pay attention. They paying attention to us. This was the one crop circle of 2020 I said I was going to share today to show that, they are paying attention to us, right? What is this? This is some virus. This is something infecting cells. Now we got to decode this thing. What is it? Is this a vaccine? What is this? I don't know. We got to decode it. We got to start paying attention. They paying attention to us. If they making crop circles of cellular vaccine virus interaction, they paying attention to our reality. So are we paying attention to theirs, So Chris, let's open it up to a discussion, man. You there? All right.
All right. That was a fascinating presentation. We can go ahead and take some questions here. Anyone in the chat that has a question, go ahead and leave it. I have a question for you.
What's up?
It's a question that I posed to a couple of the presenters I had earlier. It seems that sometimes, or a lot of times with this phenomenon, or the abduction phenomenon, or UFO phenomenon in general, that we're just some kind of experiment for whatever these beings are. With the hybrid programs that are reported, the observation, taking people against their will. It seems that we've been being observed and tinkered with you know, for thousands of years. Possibly we may be a genetic creation of some of these beings. What do you think about that?
Well, as far as those we would call the Galactic Federation, I do not think that they are engaging in what we would call abduction. I do not think they're responsible for that. I think the ones we call the Galactic Federation or the extraterrestrial humanoid beings from outer space, that they honor universal law, the law of one, that dictates their behavior. And that part of that is honoring the law of free will. This is why it seems like they're just passive observers, you know? Like, yo, it seems like they have the power to intervene and stop all the fuckery that's going on, but that for some reason they're not doing it, right? And it's because we haven't put our we are what you would call helpless. When you're helpless, what that means is you're not in a position to receive help. I'm sure we all got a friend or a family member who, right? They're conditioned, they're in need, they're in help, and we want to help them, right? But their perspective, their way of life, their behavior, the way they're rolling, right? They're not in a position to receive our help. And if we tried to help them, it might even hurt themselves more, or they might hurt us, or they wouldn't receive it with the intention that it was offered, and just, you know, it would just be a problem, right? So we're helpless as far as the Galactic Federation is concerned. That's why it appears like they're just passive observers. Just like if you had a helpless friend, you would just passively observe. You would watch him until he appeared to put himself in a position where you can perhaps now help. Okay? So then that does pose the question, well then who are the ones engaging in these abductions and these experiences where people have missing time and sleep paralysis, where it feels like they're in this semi-lucid dream, getting body fluids extracted from them in some bizarre way by some bizarre being, right? That's these inner earth beings. That's these fallen angels, these Nephilims, these reptilian Draco beings that seem bound within the earth. And I guess if I could kind of summarize just from all, I study these from different traditions, different angles. We are kind of in the, what do you say, in the middle of a galactic battle, you know? These inner earth beings I mentioned in the presentation, they've lost their ability to reproduce naturally. And because they're living in a unnatural, the, the inner earth is not their natural habitat. And living in the inner earth, they've lost their ability to reproduce naturally. They've lost their ability to, like, have an ecosystem they can eat and sustain themselves from. So they seem to get their nourishment. They seem to get their uh, reproductive materials from abducted people and mutilated animals, And I would say those are the beings responsible for that phenomena.
Now, speaking of those
And
beings, a lot of people kind of like to blame them for things going on in the world right now, especially with everything, all the craziness going on. There's a lot of theories that it's really aliens that are controlling everything, or these negative entities, and not humans that should take the blame. And I'm kind of more on the end of that. We have some evil humans here that do need to take the blame for this, and I'm not sure that we can point to extraterrestrials for all the negative things going on the planet. I'm sure there may be some things, but what do you think, especially about our current situation? You think it's mainly us humans to blame for the mess we're in right now?
Great and complex question, because at the most basic level, I would say everyone has to take responsibility for their own place and condition in space time. That's the only way you're going to be able to get out of it. We all have to be responsible, take responsibility, if not just for ourself and our behavior of this lifetime, but yeah, if you're a proactively responsible person in 2021, I would also say that you are taking account of your bloodline, their behaviors, and what atonements need to occur to balance things out and get us on that redemptive timeline. You know, we all have a part to play on getting on that redemptive timeline. But when you study the history, mystery, and prophecy of this thing, particularly the Book of Enoch, which I think is a very important book, and I know from the promo video we did earlier, a lot of presenters you got on lineup, they intend to speak on Enoch from some angle. Enoch says these fallen angels manipulated us, man. And, you know, it seems like the ultimate responsibility is kind of put on them. But we do know that there are, and I guess this is kind of where our bloodline ties in, man. We know there are humans who throughout history engaged in some real fuckery, man, that has a lot to do with where we are right here, right now. So are we going to take responsibility and atone for it? We all, and who's blameless? Whose bloodline is blameless in this thing? You show me one. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. You show me one.
I agree.
You know, and so, you know, that, like I said, that's a great question, but it's complex, and I'm not trying to evade it.
No,
I hope
I understand.
yeah, I hope I answered it.
Yeah, that was very well said. Now I have another question. This one comes from Karen. She asked if you could speak to the crop circle that looks like a virus. She asked, when did it appear, and what do you think it means? I mean, you went over that a little bit in your presentation. I guess maybe if you could elaborate a little bit on it.
I know it was 2020. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't know the month, and to be honest, I can't decode it at this time. I can't decode it more than to say you could tell it's something about a virus and a cell interacting. I've been studying the numerology of it, like, counting the what looks like the macrophages and, you know, all those different things. But at this point, uh, I, you know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, we need many eyes and many minds paying attention to this phenomenon, because whereas I don't have the key, let's say there's someone who's gifted in cellular biology, and then they look at it and they can say, "Oh, that's what happens when mitosis occurs and an infected." You know what I'm saying? They could run it down. So, that I don't have much more to say on that one at this time.
I have a question for you. Do you think with everybody that is experiencing new experiences now, having contact experiences,
Hold on,
meditative contact?
Let me check my battery real quick. All right.
Okay, so my question is, with everybody experiencing Well, a lot more people, at least, experiencing contact experiences, meditative contact experiences, seeing UFOs, all the uptick in the news lately. Do you think that there is some sense of urgency from, say, the Federation to kind of wake us up and get us integrated into this galactic family?
They absolutely are. They are attempting to get our attention. Absolutely. You know, uh,
I mean, is there's a sense of, I guess, overall danger to humanity? Is that why this message is so urgent right now?
I think that's a part of it. You have to remember too, I'm sure they're calculating the fear factor of Follywood and how, you know, in cinema, the ET is the bad boy, is the invader. It's coming with nefarious intention, right? To invade and to conquer. And so they have to engage in contact in such a way that's going to garner trust, So I think that's what a lot of the sightings and the visitations are intended to do.
All right, and I want to
Uh,
remind everybody too, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the chat at any time. There's a question about crop circles, about if you have any theories about how they're actually making these crop circles. It's pretty fascinating that some farmers will go out in the middle of the night and not see anything, and a few hours later, it's a beautiful crop circle. Do you have any theories on how these guys are making this?
well, when we look at that most important crop circle ever, uh, where Carl Sagan used a glyph for the Arecibo telescope, the corresponding crop circle in that space was what we would call the orb. And an orb is a flying object, right? I guess you would call it an unidentified flying object, but I don't think the orbs are crafts. I think they are beings, that they're these silica-based humanoids, and that they have some technology that, like some gear that they could wear, that they can interface with, that allows them to traverse our atmosphere. And if you want to follow up on these orbs more in their humanoid form, they're described in like the MUFON circles as the unidentified flying humanoids. And there is footage of them. To me, it seems like when they're in a certain energy state, they appear like a radiant ball of light. That's why they're called orbs, right? But sometimes they're still flying, but it's like they've kind of powered down in a sense. And then they look more like a stick figure or a flying humanoid, right? And it has been filmed, like some people have been able to capture footage of crop circles being formed. And you can see it's these orbs flying over the fields. And so it's some technology that these beings have. And again, they're communicating in what, more often than not, they're communicating in what we would say is the most universal language there is, which is sacred geometry and divine mathematics. You don't get more universal than that, you know?
Yeah, I've heard that orbs have actually been seen and witnessed by a few people. That's very fascinating. That it could be a piece of technology that they're using for that. Very interesting. Karen has another question here. Do you think that the bad ET contact experiences are from the malevolent working with bad humans and reverse engineering technology? What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I think the 80s was a big turning point. Uh, I don't know. I kind of remember those 80s, those Reagan years. Uh, Things just seemed like they started getting weird. Abductions and cattle mutilations started to just appear much more frequent. At least they were getting attention, you know. And I know the '80s is when the Dulce, New Mexico incident was said to occur. And yeah, it seemed like from that point that they live idea of these inner earth beings working and even posing as quote unquote government officials and world leaders. Yeah, that thing is real. And we have joint bases for sure. That's been well documented. There's, other people who have spoke on that much more eloquently than I can. But I know just right off the bat, the story of Phil Snyder is definitely relevant to this discussion and worth exploring, you know?
Yeah, I would agree. That is a very that's a very compelling story with Phil Schneider. In fact, I had a couple of guests on the other day when we were talking about that. Um, do you think that in our lifetime, maybe within the next few years, that we might have open communication with some of these beings in the Federation? That it'll become a normal thing that we talk to these guys and they're around.
Great question, man. I don't know. I don't know. I think humanity is, as a collective, we're very distracted. My hopes were a lot higher before 2020. There was a 2020 was the 33-year anniversary of the harmonic convergence, and the people that uh, kind of kicked off that original harmonic convergence in 1987, which was a global meditation to kind of awaken collective mind of humanity, get a critical mass of consciousness activated within us to the degree that we could become a galactic conscious planet. They organized another collective meditation in 2020, and I for me it was just an opportunity to really see how distracted the collective mind is, and I guess a reality check that as many conscious and aware people that there's so many more that are not. And why that critical mass is important, again, because the star nations are not going to violate our free will. And so they're not going to just show up and quote unquote intervene on our behalf. More people would receive that as a violation of their free will because they'd be like, yeah, I didn't ask for this. Who are you? What is this? What's going on? Then you multiply that factor with the Follywood fear dynamic, right? That the way ET contact has been depicted as something to be scared of, you know, and that we would need to come together and defend ourselves against. And you multiply that with the Space Force and the uh, script, the script that's already laid out for a false flag alien invasion that I'm sure the Star Nations are aware of, right? That's a lot to navigate through to make direct and open contact. So it's really going to take a lot of people like us having conversations like this on a much grander scale.
Yeah, I
And
would
then
agree.
and then we also got to consider that there's a lot of misinformation out there as well.
Definitely.
So it's complex, man. Having 2020 vision on it post 2020, it's a hard call.
Definitely is. All right, guys, I want to remind you we're going to take a couple more questions before we close out. Thank you again, Ross, for coming on and doing this. It was a fantastic presentation. Let's see what we got. Karen asks again, where do you think the Men in Black fit into all of this? Do you think that they are working for some kind of secret government faction, or that they may be off planet themselves?
Hmm. That's a great question. I don't think they're off planet, but I think they do have access. I think they're inner Earth. I think they are some inner Earth beings. They may have some genetic manipulation, you know, and they may have access to technology that gives them some fourth dimensionality manipulation, you know. They can transcend space time in a way that's non-linear, you know, at least have access to information non-linear at the minimum.
Right. Yeah, it always fascinates me, the phenomenon with Men in Black, how they can just suddenly appear after, a sighting like that. But we haven't heard much about that in recent years. I know I haven't heard any, really modern accounts of Men in Black. I'm wondering what happened to them.
True, true.
Yeah. Let's see, what else we got here? Okay, do you think that what people are calling reptilians, do you think that they could also be the same thing as what some, Christians or Catholics call demons? Do you think it's the same thing, or that these are different type of entities, that demons are more spiritual entities and the reptilians are kind of more physical? What do you think?
No, I think they are the same beings. And again, they're known by many names, many traditions. But they are these inner earth beings that manipulate humanity to do the wrong, to do bad, because for whatever reason it serves their intention. It feeds and nourishes them. Uh, yeah, I think they are one and the same. And yeah.
Now, one more question. What do you think about? I don't know if you've heard, but there's been a lot of celebrities lately that claim to be channeling and talking to aliens. Now, I don't really, pay much attention to celebrities or any of that stuff, but it's very strange to me that this is all coinciding with a lot of media coverage of USOs and, the government. Factions wanting to disclose information, and then all of a sudden we have Hollywood celebrities saying they're talking to aliens. Do you think that there is a nefarious agenda, or do you think that, I don't know, that they really are, talking to aliens, and that they could be talking to the positive aliens? I don't know.
Yeah, that would be my question. Who are they communing with?
Right.
Because if they're communing with those inner terrestrial beings are aliens, you know. Uh, and I think that's why, there is a legal distinction between alien and extraterrestrial, that it is illegal to have contact with extraterrestrials because they are fifth dimensional cosmic beings, whereas an alien is just like a being that is not of the surface of planet Earth. And so the inner terrestrials have the legal definition of alien. And it's not illegal to communicate and connect and have interaction with them. It is illegal to have contact with what you would call a ET, a extraterrestrial. And I think, uh, yeah, why that is because our government is down with them inner Earth beings. They are kind of working hand in hand, and uh, more than likely, right. And then when you factor in the whole what's going on in Hollywood on other dimensions, like the occult dimensions of Hollywood, my feeling is who they're communing with are those inner Earth aliens, and I would question the intention behind the information they share. You know, I would.
Yep, I would definitely too. I agree. Ben, that was a fantastic presentation for people that are interested in finding out more about you. You have a website, right?
Yeah, rasben.com,
Rasben.com.
RASBEN.com.
Perfect.
I
Do you
have
have
a YouTube channel also, Ras Ben 188, RASBEN 188. And if I, I have, uh, I've been doing uh, some episodes with Michael Wan of Susquehanna Alchemy. I don't know if
Yeah,
you,
I've had him on a couple of times. I love Michael. He's great.
all right. So from the 40th parallel, and we've been, just studying the mysteries of history, mystery, and prophecy associated with the 40th parallel. I
Very
also
cool.
got a book on the Dogon that's going to be coming out this month. So that's kind of what I've been into this year.
Awesome. Well, that sounds great. Everybody go check out Ras Ben's site. And thank you once again for your presentation. Fantastic information. And I'm sure we're going to be talking again soon.
All right, man. Peace and love.
Have a good one.
Respect.
All right, guys, stay tuned. We got one more presentation for the night. It's going to be Jared Murphy, and we'll be back in about 25 minutes.